A door to the unknown. Have you ever wondered what really happens behind the Vatican's towering walls? Not just the religious rituals or sacred ceremonies we see on TV, but the secrets that are kept under lock and key, hidden away from the public eye. When most people think of the Vatican, they picture a place of solemnity, faith, and spiritual authority. But if you take a closer look, you'll realize the shadows cast over that small territory hide much more than we could ever imagine. What if I told you that the Vatican might be guarding secrets that, if revealed, would completely change our understanding of history? This isn't just wild speculation. Many believe that locked within the Vatican's secret archives are mysteries so deep they could shake the very foundations of humanity. From ancient documents to rare religious artifacts, what exactly is hidden in that well-protected vault? This is a question that has intrigued countless people around the world. And if, like me, you love unraveling mysteries, prepare yourself. Because in this journey, we're diving deep into the theories, speculations, and real facts surrounding the Vatican, bringing to light what's been kept hidden for centuries. The world's most mysterious library. The first thing that draws attention when discussing the Vatican's secrets is its famous library. And when I say famous, I'm not just talking about its size or the staggering amount of historical volumes it holds. I'm talking about documents that, for centuries, have been kept far from curious eyes. The Vatican Library is one of the largest and oldest in the world. Imagine this. If you were to line up all the shelves, they would stretch over 50 miles, filled with books and manuscripts. And we're not talking about dusty old papers. These are documents that date back as far as 12 centuries ago. Among them are letters exchanged between popes and emperors, maps that show how our ancestors viewed the world, and even records of trials that shaped history. What's intriguing is that despite being called the secret archives, they aren't entirely inaccessible. Technically, anyone can request to view a document, but there's a catch. It has to be at least 75 years old. More recent documents, or those containing sensitive information, remain out of reach for most people. And this is precisely what fuels the countless conspiracy theories surrounding the Vatican. Could these documents contain proof of Jesus' existence, or worse, evidence that he never existed at all? Or could they hide scandals so earth-shattering that, if revealed, they would shake the faith of millions around the globe? These are just some of the questions that hang over the Vatican and its archives. Mind-bending conspiracy theories. It's impossible to discuss the Vatican's mysteries without diving into conspiracy theories. There are so many that, honestly, some sound like something out of a sci-fi movie. Let's start with one of the most popular. The idea that the Vatican is hiding priceless religious artifacts. Picture this: the cross on which Jesus was crucified, the Holy Grail, the cup Jesus used at the Last Supper, and even the Ark of the Covenant, which Moses supposedly used to carry the Ten Commandments, are all said to be locked away somewhere in the Vatican. These are objects that, according to Christian tradition, were lost centuries ago. But some people believe they are securely stored there. But why? What would the Church gain by hiding these items? Another, even more intriguing theory involves documents that supposedly prove the true nature of Jesus Christ, or question his very existence. It's rumored that somewhere deep within the archives lies correspondence between Emperor Nero and the Apostle Paul, which would definitively confirm whether Jesus was a real person or merely a symbolic figure created to strengthen the faith. Sounds like a movie plot, right? But many believe that the Church has very clear reasons for keeping this kind of information far from public eyes. The real question is, if it were true, what would change for you? Your faith, your worldview, your beliefs? That's the power of a secret. It doesn't just hold information, it maintains the stability of everything around it. The chronovisor, a device to see the past? If you thought the theories couldn't get any crazier, brace yourself for this one. The Vatican supposedly possesses a device that allows one to view events from the past. Yes, you read that right. This mysterious apparatus, known as the chronovisor, is said to have been created by a group of scientists in the 1950s with the help of the Catholic Church. According to rumors, the chronovisor could capture historical moments, such as the crucifixion of Jesus, and even scenes from ancient Rome. It reportedly worked by processing the leftover electromagnetic radiation from past events and transforming them into visual images and sounds. Now think about it. If this were true, imagine the implications. We could review history firsthand, verify biblical accounts, and possibly solve humanity's greatest mysteries. But of course, this remains a theory, and as you might guess, the Vatican has never confirmed the existence of such a device. But the fact that so many people believe in this story is enough to let our imaginations run wild. What if the chronovisor really existed? What would it mean for our understanding of time and space? Could it rewrite history as we know it? These are the kinds of questions that keep the mystery alive and fuel our curiosity with each new discovery. Why so many secrets? Let's be honest, why would the Vatican keep so many secrets? After all, the Catholic Church is one of the oldest and most powerful institutions in the world, with billions of followers. Wouldn't it be simpler to just be transparent? To show there's nothing to hide? Well, here's the thing. Power often lies in what is not revealed. Mystery is a powerful tool to maintain control and faith. Imagine if all the Vatican's secrets were revealed at once. The Church, which has been a pillar of spiritual authority for millions of people, could lose its aura of mystery, making it more vulnerable to criticism and questioning. In some ways, the mystery serves as a protective shield for the institution. And to be fair, many of the things kept in the archives may not be all that shocking. It's entirely possible that many of the documents are just ordinary records, with no groundbreaking revelations or scandals. But the fact that we don't know creates a cloud of mystery and leaves room for our imaginations to run wild. The Vatican's fascinating archive. When people think of the Vatican's secret archives, they picture some sort of treasure room for the Catholic Church, a place guarded by iron gates and untold mysteries. But what really lies behind those doors? What many don't realize is that the archives are officially known as the Vatican Apostolic Archive. Yes, the name secret comes from a mistranslation of the Latin term secretum, which simply means private. Still, that mistranslation has fired up the imagination of people for centuries. And let's be honest, calling it the secret archive sounds a lot more exciting than just private archive, right? With over 53 miles of shelves packed with manuscripts, historical documents, and correspondence, the Vatican Apostolic Archive is truly a time capsule. It holds records dating back to the 8th century, and over the centuries has accumulated one of the largest and most mysterious collections of documents in the world. Now, if you're wondering whether you can just visit the Vatican and ask to take a peek at these documents, the answer is not exactly. Access is highly restricted, but surprisingly, it's not entirely impossible. Academic researchers and historians with the right credentials can request permission to study certain documents. However, there's always a catch. Many of the most sensitive documents are only made available after they've been archived for at least 75 years. So even if you get permission, certain information remains locked away from the public for decades, or perhaps forever. The most notable documents in the archive. Now that we have some context on what the archives are, let's dive into some of the most important documents they hold. Because, let's face it, with over 12 centuries of history, there have to be some pretty interesting papers hidden away in there. One of the most notorious documents is the record of the trial of Galileo Galilei. Yes, that Galileo, the famous scientist who, in the 17th century, dared to challenge the Church's view that the Earth was the center of the universe. Galileo's trial is one of the most well-known and controversial events in the history of science. He was condemned for heresy for supporting Copernicus' heliocentric theory, which stated that the Earth revolved around the Sun, not the other way around. Think about it. Hundreds of years ago, a scientist had the audacity to say that the Earth wasn't the center of everything, and as a result, he was tried and condemned by the Church. And the detailed records of this trial are locked up somewhere in the Vatican Apostolic Archive. While this document has since become more accessible and is widely studied today, it remains a stark reminder of how the Church, throughout history, has attempted to control knowledge and ideas. Another document that stands out is the correspondence between Michelangelo and Pope Julius II. Yes, the Michelangelo, the genius behind the Sistine Chapel, also makes an appearance in the Vatican's archives. In these letters, Michelangelo often complained about not being paid for his work. Yes, even geniuses had financial troubles, and discussed details about his projects. These records give us a more human glimpse into the lives of historical figures we often view as distant and untouchable icons. But among all these fascinating historical records, what perhaps fuels conspiracy theories the most are the documents from the Inquisition. For those who may have forgotten their history lessons, the Inquisition was a series of religious tribunals established by the Catholic Church to identify and punish heretics. At the heart of the Inquisition was the Tribunal of the Holy Office, which over the centuries interrogated, judged, and in many cases condemned to death people whose beliefs or practices went against the Church's teachings. There are records of trials, confessions, many of them obtained through torture, and correspondence between popes and kings about how to deal with the enemies of the faith. These documents reveal the darker side of the Church and show how religious power was terrifyingly intertwined with political power. Recent revelations, the case of Pope Pius XII. One of the most recent and attention-grabbing cases involving the Vatican's archives revolves around Pope Pius XII, the Pope who led the Catholic Church during World War II. For years, historians have pressured the Vatican to release documents that could shed light on Pius XII's role in relation to the Nazi regime and the Holocaust. Many critics have accused Pius VII of remaining silent in the face of the atrocities committed against the Jews in Europe, and the Vatican was long reluctant to open the archives from this period. However, in 2020, the Vatican finally allowed historians to access documents related to Pius XII's papacy. The revelations so far have been mixed. While some evidence suggests that Pius XII tried to help Jews escape the Nazi regime, other documents suggest that he was, at the very least, passive in his public response to the genocide. This case shows how the Vatican's secret archives can reveal sensitive information that directly impacts the Church's reputation. And it's exactly for this reason that many believe there is still much more being hidden. The archives we will never see. This is where the story really gets interesting. Because despite all the fascinating documents that have been revealed over the years, there are still many archives that remain completely off-limits. And it's precisely this fact that fuels people's imaginations and conspiracy theories. Have you ever wondered what might be stored in the depths of these inaccessible archives? One of the most persistent rumors is that the Vatican has proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life. That's right. Many believe that somewhere in the archives are records of contact with beings from other planets, which the Church has kept secret to avoid a cultural and religious shock across the world. Another popular theory concerns the secrets of Jesus Christ himself. Some say there are documents that prove Jesus lived a very different life than we've been told. Maybe even that he had children. Now, take a moment and imagine the repercussions this would have for Christianity. It's no wonder that if these documents exist, the Church is keeping them far from any possibility of public disclosure. One of the most surprising rumors involves the possible existence of extraordinary religious relics, such as the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail, which are supposedly hidden in the Vatican. If these objects really exist and were discovered by the Church over the centuries, the impact of revealing them would be enormous, not just for Catholic faith, but for all of religious history. The digitalization of the Vatican archives, a glimpse into the future. In recent years, the Vatican has taken an unexpected step, launching an ambitious project to digitize its archives. This means that, in the future, many of the historical documents that are currently accessible only to credentialed academics might be available online for anyone to view. Of course, this process will take time. It's estimated that it will take 18 years to digitize everything, but it's a significant move toward greater transparency. Even so, many believe that the most sensitive documents will never be digitized or made available to the public. After all, the Vatican maintains full control over what gets released and what stays hidden. And as we've seen, not everything in the archives is likely to be accessible anytime soon. However, the digitization is a signal that the Vatican is at least attempting to balance the need for privacy with the growing public demand for greater transparency. Why does the Vatican keep so many secrets? Now here's the big question. Why does the Vatican keep so many documents inaccessible, especially those that don't seem to contain anything too sensitive? The answer may be simpler than you think. Over the centuries, the Catholic Church has learned that the power of an institution often lies in what it chooses not to reveal. When a document remains secret, it automatically gains a certain level of importance. It sparks curiosity, and in some way, it shields the Church from deeper scrutiny. Additionally, many of the older documents may not be kept secret simply for power-related reasons, but also due to their fragility. Ancient manuscripts are incredibly delicate, and allowing people to handle them could cause irreparable damage. So there is logic in keeping many of these documents inaccessible, at least until they can be safely digitized. But of course, this doesn't stop the mystery from lingering. Because, in the end, what is kept in secrecy always seems more important than what is revealed. The power of the Vatican's secret archives. The Vatican Apostolic Archive is undoubtedly one of the most fascinating and mysterious places in the world. Guarding documents that span centuries, it offers a window into the past, while also keeping us at a distance from the Church's deepest secrets. Although many documents have already been revealed and others are on the way to being digitized, there will always be that sense of mystery surrounding the secret archives. What else could be hidden inside? Are there religious secrets that could shake faith? Proof of extraterrestrial civilizations? Or simply historical documents the Church has preferred to keep away from public eyes? The truth is, no matter how much information the Vatican releases, there will always be something more, something that slips through our grasp. And that mystery is what makes the Vatican's secret archives one of humanity's greatest enigmas. One thing is certain, as long as they exist, questions will continue to be asked, and we will remain curious to know what's being kept hidden. When mysteries turn into conspiracies. If there's one thing that sparks people's imaginations, it's conspiracy theories. And when it comes to the Vatican, the speculations reach unbelievable heights. We're not just talking about the usual rumors. We're diving into a realm where religion, power, and the unknown intersect. For many, the Vatican isn't just the seat of Catholicism, but the epicenter of secrets guarded for centuries that, if revealed, could shake the very foundations of society. What makes these theories so intriguing? Maybe it's the combination of historical facts with wild speculations, or perhaps it's the Vatican's secretive nature that fuels these stories. The fact is, the more mysterious the institution, the more theories seem to flourish. And in the case of the Vatican, this mystery is practically woven into the fabric of the institution. Buckle up, because at this point in our journey, we're about to dive deep into the most fascinating and disturbing conspiracy theories involving the Vatican. And as always, the truth may be stranger than fiction. The Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant, lost or hidden treasures. One of the oldest and most persistent rumors about the Vatican is the idea that it hides some of the most sacred religious artifacts in history within its walls. Perhaps the most famous of these is the Holy Grail, the cup that, according to Christian tradition, Jesus used during the Last Supper. If the Holy Grail ever existed, it was lost centuries ago. But there are those who believe that the Vatican, with its nearly limitless power, managed to locate and conceal the cup. Just revealing its existence would be a monumental discovery. The Holy Grail isn't just a symbol of Christian faith, it's one of the most mythologized artifacts in history, surrounded by tales of supernatural power and immortality. But the Holy Grail isn't the only object the Vatican is rumored to possess. Many believe they also have the Ark of the Covenant, the biblical ark that housed the tablets of the law, the 10 Commandments given to Moses on Mount Sinai. The Ark mysteriously disappeared from history, and over the centuries, countless theories about its whereabouts have emerged. For some, the explanation is simple. It's in the Vatican, kept far from the world's eyes. Now let's think for a moment. If it were true that the Vatican possesses the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail, why would they hide such artifacts? The most common answer among conspiracy theorists is that the Vatican fears the impact revealing these items would have on humanity. Perhaps it would shake the very structures of power within the Church. Or maybe these artifacts are so powerful that it's better no one has access to them. Whatever the reason, the idea that the Vatican has these legendary items continues to captivate people's imaginations. Was Jesus real? The document that could change everything. If you thought the theories about the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant were controversial, wait until you hear this. There are those who believe that the Vatican is hiding proof of Jesus Christ's non-existence. Yes, you read that right. And this is, without a doubt, one of the most explosive theories circulating about the Vatican. According to some theorists, there is a specific document hidden deep within the Vatican's archives that could prove Jesus was never a historical figure. This theory claims that the document is a correspondence between the Roman Emperor Nero and the Apostle Paul, where they allegedly discuss Jesus as a symbolic figure created to inspire the faithful, rather than a real person of flesh and blood. Now, imagine the impact of such a revelation. The idea that Jesus Christ, the central figure of one of the largest religions in the world, never actually existed, and that the Church has kept this secret for nearly 2,000 years, could shake the faith of millions. If this were true, what would it mean for Christianity? For the very history of humanity? Of course, like many conspiracy theories, this one is widely discredited by the Church and most historians. However, the fact that this theory persists shows how much the mystery surrounding the Vatican fuels the most extreme speculations. The truth is, the more secrets the Church holds, the more people imagine what might be hidden away. The chronovisor, the Vatican's time machine. If you thought the Vatican conspiracy theories couldn't get any stranger, brace yourself for the chronovisor. Of all the speculations about the Vatican, this one might be the most fantastical, and yet it remains one of the most fascinating. The theory of the chronovisor claims that the Vatican possesses a device that allows one to see the past. That's right, a sort of time machine. According to the story, the chronovisor was developed in the 1950s by a priest named Pellegrino Ernetti, who supposedly worked with a group of scientists funded by the Church. According to descriptions, the chronovisor works by capturing remnants of electromagnetic radiation from past events and transforming them into images and sounds. In theory, this would allow people to watch historical events as though they were recorded films. And the most shocking part is that some claim the Church used the chronovisor to witness moments like the crucifixion of Jesus and other biblical episodes. Though this all sounds like a well-crafted piece of science fiction, the story of the chronovisor has persisted over the years. Books have been written about the device, and new theories continue to pop up. However, as you might expect, the Vatican has never confirmed the existence of such a machine. But imagine if the chronovisor were real. What would it mean for our understanding of history? The Church would have the literal power to review the past, to see events as they truly happened, not as they were recorded. This raises a series of questions. If the Church had this device, would it use it to confirm its own narrative or to hide inconvenient truths? Alien contact. Does the Vatican know more than we do? If you thought the Vatican conspiracy theories were confined to Christianity, think again. One of the most persistent and intriguing rumors is that the Vatican has knowledge of the existence of extraterrestrial life and has been concealing this information from the public. There are many versions of this theory, but the most popular one claims that hidden within the Vatican's secret archives are documents proving that the Church has had contact with beings from other planets. Some even suggest that the Vatican is collaborating with these beings, or that they possess advanced knowledge about the presence of extraterrestrials among us. This theory gained even more traction when it was revealed that the Vatican has its own observatory, one of the oldest and most respected in the world. Located outside Rome, in Castel Gandolfo, and also in Arizona, USA, the Vatican Observatory has a long history of astronomical studies. The fact that the Church has such a vested interest in space has only fueled the imaginations of conspiracy theorists. For those who subscribe to this theory, the question is simple. Why does the Catholic Church have such a keen interest in astronomy? Could it be that they are searching for answers we aren't ready or willing to hear? Some versions of the theory even suggest that if aliens ever reveal themselves to humanity, the Vatican is already prepared to handle the social and spiritual repercussions. In other words, the Church may be well ahead of the rest of the world, ready to integrate the knowledge of extraterrestrials into our understanding of spirituality. Though this may sound like something straight out of a science fiction movie, the speculation continues to fascinate people. After all, if such a massive secret exists, it's not too far-fetched to imagine that the Vatican, with its long history of power and control over information, could be involved. The Vatican Bank and its shadowy connections. Not all conspiracy theories involving the Vatican are about religion or aliens. One of the most notorious and controversial theories concerns the Vatican Bank, officially known as the Institute for the Works of Religion, IOR. Founded in 1942, the Vatican Bank is infamous for its secrecy and complete independence from any external audits. The idea that the bank has been used for money laundering and illicit activities isn't just a conspiracy theory. It's a claim that has been investigated by various authorities over the years. There have been suspicions that the bank facilitated transactions for criminal organizations, including the Italian mafia. One of the most famous cases involving the Vatican Bank was the mysterious death of Roberto Calvi, an Italian banker with ties to the Vatican, who was found hanging under Blackfriars Bridge in London in 1982. Calvi was nicknamed God's Banker because of his connections to the Vatican, and his death was surrounded by suspicions of mafia involvement and financial fraud. This episode only heightened speculations about what really goes on within the Vatican's financial operations. The Catholic Church, as a global institution, deals with enormous sums of money, and the absolute secrecy surrounding its finances has led many to believe there's more happening than meets the eye. Hidden symbols and mysterious architecture. For many theorists, the Vatican itself is a physical manifestation of hidden power. Theories about secret symbols embedded in the Vatican's architecture range from Masonic imagery to serpent-like designs. One famous example is the Paul VI Audience Hall, a large auditorium used for papal audiences. When viewed from the inside, some theorists have pointed out a disturbing resemblance. The hall's structure resembles a snake's head, with two windows that look like eyes and a central slit that resembles a mouth. Are these symbols just coincidences, or do they carry deeper meaning? Some suggest that the use of occult symbolism is a way for those in power, including the Vatican, to communicate their intentions subliminally to the public. Truth or fiction? The conspiracy theories surrounding the Vatican are vast and varied, and the truth is that many of them may never be proven. What is certain, however, is that the secretive nature of the Vatican fuels these speculations. Where there are secrets, there is curiosity, and where there is curiosity, conspiracy theories flourish. Whether the stories of hidden religious artifacts, chronovisors, or alien contact are true or not, they continue to capture the imaginations of millions. And as long as the Vatican keeps its doors closed to certain secrets, the questions will persist. Will we ever know the truth behind these mysteries? Or are some things better left in the dark, where the mystery continues to live? Resolutions, scandals, and religion in crisis. Throughout the centuries, the Vatican has been a symbol of the Catholic Church, a beacon of faith for billions of people worldwide. However, within its ancient walls, the institution has also become an icon of power, a power that hasn't always been used in the most transparent, or as some would argue, morally upright ways. The history of the Vatican is filled with glorious moments, but also with shadows. And when those shadows are brought to light, the impact on faith and the Church is devastating. In recent years, there has been a rise in scandals involving the Catholic Church. From sexual abuse cases to financial scandals, the trust of the faithful has been shaken, and many are left wondering, what happened to the institution that was supposed to be the ultimate symbol of spiritual purity and integrity? Let's explore how these scandals have plunged the Vatican into crisis, and what this means for the future of the Catholic Church. Sexual abuse scandals. the sin that devastated the Church. There's no way to talk about the most devastating scandals of the Vatican without starting with the issue of sexual abuse within the Catholic Church. For decades, perhaps even centuries, cases of sexual abuse involving priests and bishops were covered up, silenced, or downplayed by the ecclesiastical hierarchy. Sadly, it was only in the past 20 years that these crimes began to come to light, exposing a culture of cover-up that has shaken the Church to its core. The sexual abuse scandal wasn't confined to one region or country, it was global. From the United States to Ireland, from Australia to Brazil, stories surfaced of victims who finally had the courage to speak out, revealing the abuse they suffered at the hands of those who were supposed to be their spiritual leaders. In many cases, these victims were children, making the scandal even more horrific. The Catholic Church faced severe criticism for its initial response to these abuse cases. Instead of taking immediate action against the perpetrators, many church leaders opted to transfer abusive priests from one parish to another, essentially allowing them to continue their crimes in new locations. The excuse? To protect the integrity of the Church. But protecting the institution at the expense of the dignity and safety of the victims ended up costing the Church something far more valuable: trust. In 2002, the Boston Globe published a series of investigative reports that exposed a systematic pattern of abuse and cover-up within the Archdiocese of Boston, USA. This marked the beginning of an avalanche of allegations that followed worldwide. The 2015 Oscar-winning film Spotlight narrates this investigation and the devastating impact it had, both on the Church and society. The Vatican's response: redemption or too late? Faced with growing public pressure and outrage from the victims, the Vatican was forced to act. In 2001, Pope John Paul II issued a directive requiring that all cases of clerical sexual abuse be reported directly to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, led at the time by Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, who would later become Pope Benedict XVI. However, it wasn't until 2010, under Benedict XVI's pontificate, that the Church began implementing stricter reforms. He was the first pope to directly confront the abuse, declaring zero tolerance for sexual crimes within the Church. Benedict XVI sought forgiveness from victims and encouraged cooperation with civil authorities, something that had previously been largely ignored. Many believe that the internal and external pressure from these scandals contributed to Benedict XVI's resignation in 2013, the first papal resignation in nearly 600 years. He may have felt that the Church needed stronger and renewed leadership to handle the crisis. The arrival of Pope Francis in 2013 brought hope to many of the faithful. Francis is widely seen as a reformer, someone willing to address the Church's problems more openly and directly. He has held several meetings with abuse survivors and, in 2019, organized an unprecedented Vatican conference on combating sexual abuse in the clergy. However, despite all these efforts, the Vatican continues to face criticism for not going far enough in its reforms. Many say that while Francis's words are a good start, more concrete and swift actions are still needed to restore trust. The question remains, will this be enough? For many victims, the Church's apologies and pleas for forgiveness come too late. And for many other Catholics, the sexual abuse scandals have left an indelible stain on the Church's reputation, leading them to lose faith in the institution. Financial corruption and the Vatican Bank. If the sexual abuse scandals weren't enough to rock the Vatican, the financial troubles plaguing the institution have caused equally significant damage. One of the biggest controversies revolves around the Vatican Bank, known officially as the Institute for the Works of Religion, IOR. Despite its lofty name, the Vatican Bank has been at the center of investigations for money laundering, corruption, and illegal financial activities. The darkest chapter in the Vatican Bank's history began to gain notoriety in the 1980s when Roberto Calvi, famously dubbed God's banker, was found dead under mysterious circumstances in London. Calvi was at the heart of a financial fraud scheme involving the Banco Ambrosiano, which had strong ties to the Vatican. He was discovered hanging under Blackfriars Bridge in what was initially ruled a suicide, but later determined to be a murder. This incident raised disturbing questions about the Vatican's connections to the Italian mafia and other criminal organizations. Did Calvi know too much? And more importantly, what did the Vatican know about these shady dealings? Since then, the Vatican Bank has been the subject of multiple investigations and internal reforms. In 2013, Pope Francis began a thorough housecleaning, trying to rid the bank of corruption. Nevertheless, the path to reform has been anything but easy. Even with the establishment of a supervisory commission and the introduction of new regulations, financial scandals continue to haunt the Vatican. Why do these financial scandals matter so much? The answer is simple. They undermine the Church's image as a moral institution. For many, the Catholic Church represents charity and humility. So when stories of millions of euros being mismanaged or ties to organized crime surface, it calls into question the very integrity of the institution. Once again, power and faith clash and the Church's reputation suffers. Vatileaks, the documents that expose the Church's dark side. As if the sexual and financial scandals weren't already significant enough, the Vatican was rocked by the infamous Vatileaks scandal. In 2012, confidential Vatican documents were leaked to the press, exposing an unsettling world of internal power struggles, corruption, and intrigue within the Holy See. The documents revealed everything from personal rivalries among high-ranking Vatican officials to financial misconduct. It was a glimpse into the internal workings of an institution that, for centuries, had maintained an image of spiritual and moral superiority. The documents were stolen by Paolo Gabriele, the personal butler of Pope Benedict XVI, who justified his actions by saying he wanted to help the Pope clean up the Church. Gabriele was arrested, tried, and convicted, though he was later pardoned by Benedict XVI. Vatileaks exposed something many had long suspected. The Vatican, like any other large organization, was not immune to internal politics, power games, and corruption. However, for many Catholics, this was a shocking revelation. The Church, which had always portrayed itself as a divine institution above human frailty, was suddenly revealed to be embroiled in the same kind of infighting and corruption that affects any human institution. The fallout from Vatileaks was profound. It not only shook the faith of many Catholics, but also led to a leadership crisis within the Vatican. Following the scandal, Pope Benedict XVI made the extraordinary decision to resign, becoming the first pope in almost 600 years to do so. His resignation was seen by many as a sign that the Vatican's internal crises were far greater than anyone had imagined. The decline of faith and secularization. These scandals, sexual, financial, and political, have had a deep impact on the relationship between the Church and its followers. Today, in many countries, there is a clear decline in the number of practicing Catholics. In places like Western Europe, where Catholicism once dominated, churches are closing, and secularization is on the rise. This loss of faith can't be attributed solely to the scandals, but they have undoubtedly played a role. For many, especially younger generations, the Church is no longer seen as an untouchable, morally unimpeachable institution. Instead, it now carries the weight of its very public failings. Pope Francis has tried to combat this decline by adopting a more progressive approach. He has addressed relevant social issues such as climate change, immigration rights, and the need for a more inclusive Church. However, for many, especially those deeply affected by the scandals, these efforts may seem too little too late. The future of the Catholic Church is undoubtedly at a critical point. Trust needs to be restored, and faith must be rekindled. But the question many are asking is, can the Vatican, with all its history and secrets, truly reform itself from within? A path to redemption or collapse? Looking toward the future, it's clear that the Vatican must continue to confront its demons. The reform efforts, such as the zero-tolerance policy on sexual abuse and the cleanup of the Vatican Bank, are important steps. But as many critics point out, they are still not enough. The true test for the Church will be whether it can embrace more radical change, be transparent about its past mistakes, and show a genuine willingness to learn from them. Pope Francis, for many, symbolizes this attempt at renewal. He has adopted a simpler and more humble style of leadership, often choosing to live modestly and focus on social issues that previous popes might have ignored. But even he has faced resistance from within the Church itself. There is an internal divide, with conservatives believing he is going too far, and progressives thinking he's not going far enough. Whether the Church can redeem itself and regain the trust of its followers is something only time will tell. What's certain is that the Vatican stands at a crossroads. The choices it makes in the coming years will determine whether the Catholic Church can reinvent itself and survive the crises that have plagued it, or whether it will continue to lose relevance in an increasingly secular world. Faith survives, but trust is in question. The scandals of the Vatican have dealt a hard blow to the Catholic Church, but despite everything, the faith of millions of people around the world remains strong. For these people, the Church is more than its leaders and more than its mistakes. It represents a spiritual connection, a community of faith that transcends the sins of its representatives. However, trust, that fragile bond between the faithful and the institution, has been severely damaged. And without trust, it's difficult for any institution to survive. The future of the Vatican and the Catholic Church rests in the hands of those who decide whether it's possible to keep faith alive while confronting the harsh reality of past errors. As always, the issue isn't just what has been done, but what will be done from this point forward. The path to redemption is open, but it will take courage and honesty to follow it. An institution straddling the past and the future. When we talk about the Vatican, it's impossible not to think of the duality that surrounds it. On one side, there is tradition, a millennia-old institution that carries with it the weight of history and the faith of billions of people. On the other, there is the present and the future, a world in constant change, where issues like transparency, equality, and inclusion are becoming increasingly important. How does the Vatican, one of the oldest and most powerful organizations in the world, balance these two opposing forces? The Catholic Church stands at a critical juncture, and its survival as a global institution depends directly on the decisions it makes moving forward. Reforms are urgent. New scandals could be fatal. But beyond addressing the current problems, the Church also faces a much larger challenge: how to handle its own secrets, those that have yet to be revealed and that could irreversibly change history. What does the future hold for the Vatican? And what haven't we been told that could transform the way we see the Church and its role in the world? The secrets still hidden in the Vatican archives. Up until now, we've explored the scandals that have come to light, from sexual abuse and financial misconduct to the power plays revealed by VatiLeaks. But what about the secrets that remain locked away in the Vatican's vaults, far from the reach of historians and researchers? The truth is, there is still much we don't know about what the Vatican is hiding. The Vatican's secret archives, with its 53 miles of documents and manuscripts, continues to be a source of fascination and speculation. And it's not hard to see why. As mentioned earlier, many documents are only made public after 75 years of being archived, which means more recent secrets, especially those involving the Vatican's relationships with governments or controversial internal decisions, remain off-limits. Moreover, there's always the possibility that certain documents will never be released. What could the Vatican be hiding? Could there be proof that confirms or refutes the historical existence of Jesus? Or documents that reveal an even darker side of the Church, involving political and economic conspiracies? These are the questions that continue to fuel conspiracy theories and keep the mystery alive. The Vatican and the future of religion. In a world that's becoming increasingly secular, with new generations moving further away from religious traditions, the Catholic Church faces a profound challenge: relevance. How can the Church continue to be a moral and spiritual voice in an era where science, individuality, and personal freedom often take precedence over tradition and doctrine? Pope Francis has worked hard to modernize the Church, at least in certain aspects. He's spoken openly about the need for the Church to become more inclusive, addressing issues such as the acceptance of LGBTQ+ members and gender equality. He's also been vocal about environmental responsibility, advocating for action on climate change. These are issues that resonate strongly with younger generations and demonstrate that Francis understands that for the Church to survive, it must align itself with the concerns of the modern world. But the road to modernization is a difficult one. For every step Pope Francis takes toward a more open and inclusive Church, there's pushback from conservatives within the institution, who believe that sacred traditions are being diluted. There's a real battle happening within the Vatican between reformists and traditionalists, making the future of the Church uncertain. This tension isn't new. The Church has always been torn between the need to stay true to tradition and the pressure to adapt to the times. However, what makes the current moment unique is the speed and scale of the changes happening in the world. If the Church fails to modernize without losing its identity, it risks becoming increasingly irrelevant. Science and religion, a bridge or a divide? One of the central issues facing the future of the Catholic Church is its relationship with science. Over the centuries, the Church has had a complicated relationship with the scientific community. The trial of Galileo is one of the most famous examples of this tension, and to this day, many people view the Church as an institution that resists scientific advancements in favor of faith. However, this relationship has been changing. As mentioned earlier, the Vatican runs its own observatory, and there is a growing interest within the Church to explore the mysteries of the cosmos. This raises an interesting question. Can the Church embrace science and still maintain its spiritual authority? At its core, science and faith don't have to be at odds. Many within the Church believe that science is a way to understand God's creation, and that the two can coexist. For example, the Big Bang Theory, which is widely accepted by scientists today, was first proposed by a Catholic priest named Georges Lemaitre, showing that religion and science can indeed find common ground. Yet despite these shifts, many both inside and outside the Church still struggle to reconcile the two. For the Catholic Church, which holds to a set of traditional beliefs that don't always align with modern science, this remains one of the greatest challenges for the future. The acceptance of evolution, for example, is still a controversial topic for many faithful. If the Vatican wants to remain relevant in the future, it will need to find a way to balance these two forces. Science is advancing rapidly, providing answers to questions that once belonged solely to religion. As humanity seeks new answers, including the possibility of life on other planets, the Church must be ready to adapt its spiritual vision to these new realities. What happens if the secrets are revealed? Returning to the central theme of the Vatican's secrets, we have to ask, what happens if one day all of these mysteries are revealed? More importantly, what would this mean for people's faith? The revelation of certain secrets could indeed shake the foundations of the Catholic Church. If, for example, it were ever proven that Jesus did not exist as a historical figure, a theory rejected by the vast majority of scholars, it could dismantle the very core of Christian belief. Likewise, if documents were ever exposed showing the Vatican's complicity in crimes against humanity, such as during the Holocaust, it could lead to an even greater crisis of trust. On the other hand, transparency could also be the Church's saving grace. Many believe that if the Vatican chose to open up its archives and be honest about its past, it could regain some of the trust it has lost over the years. The truth, no matter how painful, could be the first step toward healing. But is the Church ready for such transparency? And more importantly, are the faithful prepared to face the truth, whatever that may be? This is the dilemma the Vatican will need to confront in the coming years, especially as more people demand clear answers and accountability. A church without secrets, a new beginning? What would happen if the Vatican were fully transparent, if all its secrets were revealed? This is a scenario that many believe is either impossible or at the very least, highly unlikely. After all, as we've discussed, the Church's power often resides in the secrets it keeps. But what if this strategy no longer works? A church without secrets would be much closer to what Pope Francis has been striving for. A more inclusive church, more open to dialogue with science and other religions, and more willing to admit its past mistakes. For many, this would represent a new beginning. A rebirth of the Catholic faith that could perhaps win back those who have drifted away because of the scandals and controversies. However, this path is risky. For an institution that has so much to lose, power, influence, and even part of its traditionalist base, full transparency may be seen as too radical a step. Even so, many believe that this is the only way forward if the Church is to survive in the 21st century. Is the Vatican ready for the future? So where does this leave us? The Catholic Church stands at a crossroads, and the future depends on the choices it makes in the years ahead. On one side, there is tradition and the power that has kept the Vatican one of the most influential institutions in the world for nearly 2 millennia. On the other, there's the demand for transparency, inclusion, and accountability that modern society increasingly demands. The secrets of the Vatican, as fascinating as they are just one part of what's at stake. The real challenge lies in how the Church handles its past mistakes, how it adapts to societal changes, and how it maintains its relevance in a world that has, in many ways, moved beyond religious tradition. The Vatican, with all its history and mystery, remains a symbol of power and faith. But for that faith to survive, something must change. Whether it's by opening its archives, embracing science, or reforming its internal structures, the Church will need to evolve. Whether it can do so while holding on to its essence is a question only time will answer. One thing is certain: the secrets of the Vatican, whether revealed or not, will continue to captivate and intrigue. And the world will be watching, waiting to see what comes next.